Alright guys, welcome back. So let's take a look at what we can do furthermore with what we have. So one thing I kind of want to add is some metal kind of like button thing or bolt to hold things here, right? Because there are actually two layers of different pieces. Okay, just to make it a little bit more visible, maybe I can show you because actually we did that, right? We know that this is a different piece. What I want to do is add some metal parts to hold those things together, like a little metal button. Of course, there are many different materials we can use already to do that. We're using some already existing materials for the laser and the shoelace. But let's actually learn how we can create our own, right? So that way we don't always have to rely on whatever other people is creating. So to make a material, you need to use a different tool called Substance Designer, and this tool is for material authoring. So what we're using here, like the leather material and that and things like that, they're all done with Substance Designer. So what we have to do here is go create a file, new substance, and use physically based. I can call this guy I can call this metal button. Okay, hit OK. All right, now I have all those nodes here. Now, what I want to achieve, let me change the scene to a plain harass. Okay, and so what I want to achieve is basically a super shiny. It's basically a metal circular shape that has some profile in the middle, right? So what I need to do is go create a shape here first. And then I'm going to change the shape from square to a bio, which is kind of like a gradually fading out shape. And we can go create a transformation node. Just hit tab and type in transformation 2D, and you just click on transformation 2D, and you connect that to that by clicking and dragging. The navigation here is exactly like Maya's UV editor. So we connect the transformation 2D to those different nodes. So what we're going to connect is the head map. Okay, and also we tab and create a normal node and connect that to the transformation 2D, and that goes to the normal. For the normal node, I'm going to change the intensity to 30, so it's like super visible. You can see what it does is basically giving you this this little budge here in the middle, right? Let me drag that down. Okay, so those are the material channels, and these are the graph we can make. We can build to build that material, and we can define some of the things here, like the base color can be done with a uniform color here. Just tap and tap in uniform color, and change the color to white. Okay, I can use grayscale and connect that to the base color. Control C, Control V to copy paste, and that goes to roughness. For roughness, it's gonna be super not rough, so black for roughness. Metallic, because we're making a metal, so that goes all the way up to 1, right? All right, let's view output in 3D view. It's still kind of like really dark, so I'm wondering why it's like that. So we have the metallic totally uniform color to be white. For the base color, roughness is all rough. Maybe just too rough. Okay, so let me drag this up a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I don't want it to be exactly this this blurry right on the edge. So what I want to do is I want to give it some edge. Okay, to do that I can create another shape. So tab and tap in shape, and change the shape to disk. Okay, and I can change the size or scale here, and I can do a blend and blend those two things together. So one goes to the background, another one goes to the foreground. We can do a multiply to cut things out, and that goes to the transformation. You can see now we have this little metal part right in the middle. Okay, now just to make things look a little bit more visible, we can create another output node here. Okay, for this output node, I'm going to change the usage, adding a usage atom, and change it to opacity. And also I can change the name to opacity. here also, and we can create a node called histogram scan, and this is connect the transformation 2D to that histogram scan, drag position all the way up. That's basically scanning through the histogram, and you can see what it does. Basically, it's scanning through the grayscale, right? And crank it all the way up will give you a mask, and that's gonna go to the opacity. Your red mouse button drag the opacity to the viewport and say opacity. That's gonna use it as opacity. Okay, cool. So I want to also remap this guy by using a curve node. So you just basically grab this line and tap in curve. And what we do here is basically having some fun with the profile of this guy. So we give it a little budge in the middle, maybe, and then double click there. If you don't see it going up and down like what I'm having here, you go to Material, Default, Definition, physically metallic and roughness, and you change the setting to tessellation, and go to the tessellation factor and change that to 32. Crank the scale up to 10 or even 20. Sometimes it's just bumping out more. Okay, and yeah, also make sure that you're using this plan harass as the model, and then we just need to use this to have some fun with the profile of this button. Maybe we have a little arc in the middle. Okay. Alright, so that's gonna be how my metal button would look like, I guess. Okay, just to have, I guess a little bit more fun. We could give this guy something like a cross in the middle, although that may not looks really good. But you know what? Let's just do it, right? So I'm gonna go create a shape here, and then I'm gonna change the scale to be something smaller and scale X to be something smaller. And then I'm gonna create a transformation 2D and just drag it in the 2D view to rotate in 90 degrees. I can hold it down Shift to make it snap. Now I'm gonna blend those two things together with a blend node, and the blending method here will be add. Okay, add. All right, and then we can do another blend to blend this guy with that guy. Result goes to there, and we're not creating a cross, right? We're gonna use a subtract to cut that out. Okay, and we can lower down the opacity to subtract lesser or more. Okay, basically to cut something out of it. All right, it's hard to see because we don't have AO, but it's fine. I don't think we need to do that much of a tweak here. Maybe just a transformation to make it a little bit smaller. Let's see, just to drive this home. Maybe I can just also make it not a perfect circular disk shape. Maybe I can cut some of the edges off. So I can create another shape node, and then change it to disk, and then change the scale to something really small. Create a transformation 2D to drag it over to the edge. Okay, to the corner here. Okay, or maybe not that corner, just to this little corner here. Okay, and then I'm gonna do a splatter circular. That's gonna just cycle this guy, and of course that's not gonna be the background. That's gonna be the pattern input. I can delete that now. Okay. Okay, and here I can go down and tell it to be using the image input, and I can change the amount of patterns. Maybe I can do like that much. Okay, and then I can change the radius of these guys to not that radius, the size. Yeah, so scale here 3, or I can, you know what, I need to actually just use that. Yeah, that's right. So I was overthinking, so I just need to change the scale here. All right, so that will be then used to blend to our shape here. So we do maybe a subtraction here, okay, to cut some metal hole here. Okay. All right, cool. So let's say I want to add this guy, right? Like add this little shape to here. So I need to get some map out as our asset. So we can either choose to use height map or normal map. I think normal map is probably better, or height map. I don't think. I think either one should work. So let's try height and see if that works. So we need height map. We need the alpha here. So let me double click on the height to view it in the 2D view and just save it. Okay, and then I'm gonna call this guy metal button underscore height. Okay, and this one, double click on the opacity, and this is gonna be metal button alpha. Okay, now back here to Substance Spinner. What I can do now is go to File, Import Resources, and Add Resources. Okay, and just go grab the, I have a lot of things, metal button alpha and hat, and open those two things. So for the alpha, it's gonna be an alpha, and the hat will be a texture, and we put it into the project and import. Now we have those two things, right? Let's create a new paint layer and call this guy metal buttons. Okay, and then for my brush, I'm gonna go holding down Control and right mouse button, go up and down until it becomes solid. And I'm gonna go to the alpha part and then drag that alpha into the alpha slot, and scroll down to the very bottom. I can find the hat and drag the hat to the hat. Okay, all right, you can see what it does here, right? And also I want to define the roughness to be super rough, metallic to be quite metallic, and color to be white. Okay, now if I click here, you can see I'm basically stamping that on top. Okay, right, we're stamping what we have built on top of the the material we have already, right? And one thing I want to do is I don't want it to be inheriting from whatever we're having. So we don't want to see the noise anymore inside of our shape here, right? Let me tweak the roughness. Okay, maybe that's just because the lighting is not facing it. Anyway, so here to the, let's see, the layer blend mode of the hat, I can change it to just normal, right? That way when I click, I'm basically blocking what's happening down there. All right, and because we have this alpha, when we click this guy, we can still see through it. Okay, I think the hat map is actually a bit too strong. Maybe I can try to use the normal map. Maybe that will behave better because the normal map is here and it does look a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, so let's try that. I'm gonna double click and save this guy. So metal button normal. Okay, now back here I can also import that. Okay, and that's gonna be a texture. Put it into the project. Okay, back to the project. Now we have this guy now. We can also right click to go to the properties menu and go to the normal part and drag that over to the normal. And then for the hat, I can disable it to make it just 0. We still need to have the hat on because we want to block the bottom. Okay, now let's see. Yeah, that feels better. Okay, you can see now we can use this guy to populate some metal parts. The good thing about that this is that we can now specify what we want, right? The shape is defined by us in Substance Designer, and we just transfer it over here to use it as the little metal button that we want to add to our different parts. Okay, so that's basically how you create your own kind of like a little tools here. And by the way, when you're done with this, right, you want to save this guy, save this brush setup. What you do is you go to the properties and right click here and you create tool preset, and that's gonna becomes a tool, right? You can then rename this tool to the to metal button. Okay. If you do have a thumbnail, you can go set custom preview and load a texture, but we don't have that, so we can't really have a little icon here. But still, this is pretty useful, right? So that's how you create your own brush from scratch, from the build up from Substance Designer. Right? You grab the necessary maps like node map and opacity, and you go back here to Substance Designer and you just use it. Okay, you can use that to add something here to this guy also, right? When you're doing this kind of like thing, you want to be also be aware of the resolution limitation, right? And we don't really see that much of detail here. That's because our resolution is low. If you go to texture set settings, it's 2K, right? If you want to get higher resolution, you have to crank that up to 4K. The good thing about Substance Spinner is that it's able to update it to the correct resolution. Okay, but even though like 4K is probably too much for just a show, right? So I just want to show you that you can do that, but I think you just have to stick with 2K or even 1K for show texture, because when you're making an entire character, this show will not be able to take over that much of a UV resolution. Alright, cool. So that's going to be it for this video. Let's move on to the next and we can talk about some other stuff. Okay, see you next time.